I'm just kidding. I'm gonna ask you to be a little nice to me because my product lead, who is this very handsome guy over here, got COVID a few days ago, so I had to fill in last minute. So I may be all over the place, but please be nice. So today I'm going to talk about kind of governance being messy. So it's a review of, I guess, some observations about how DAOs are developing today and what Seasons is doing to solve those problems. And I'll try to make it not as silly as possible. And just observations for overall how we think the DAO space should go in the future. You can follow Duncan right here, and me, and our platform. Those are our Twitter handles. And I'm not going to walk around because I need notes. Okay, so just to get a gauge of the audience here, I guess how many people would say they're familiar with DAOs? Okay, so I'm not talking to like noobs, right? So hopefully I'm not like boring people. So we'll start with some governance. How many people here agree with this guy? Ross is a baller, by the way. I'm a fan if he's here. Who would say they agree? Raise your hands if you do. Okay, anyone who wears a size large, if you want to speak up into why you think you agree, you get a free t-shirt. Anyone? Oh, no? Okay, well, how about who disagrees? Raise your hands. Anyone want to speak? Would you like to share why you disagree?
Personally, I've found DAOs can differ in basically every conceivable way. So they might have a multi-sig, they might not have a multi-sig. Ultimately, they're up to the community members within the DAO to craft it.
Great opinion. Would you like a large or a small?
Ooh, large.
Large, all right. Here you go. Maybe I'll give this at a later part. But yeah, so DAOs are pretty confusing. I think there's a lot of different definitions of what DAOs are, and I think most of I guess what at the crux of what DAOs are is this concept of like governance, decentralized governance. How do we go about defining governance? And I would say it seems to me that governance and DAOs in general is just not very novel. It's how people are determining what is the best means of coordinating and acting properly as an organization. But what's unique is that with crypto, you have tokens and incentive structures that you can codify. So you can have consensus on how do you define what a meaningful participation look like. And this is what we as a DAO believe to be a proper process for how external people can come in, participate, and impact organizational change as a DAO. And we are seeing that DAOs are quite messy. So I'm sure many of you here know what happened with Wonderland. But basically this, Danny over here, no judgment, is saying, hey, I'm gonna take charge of this DAO. And it begs the question, is this really decentralized, right? We have decentralized autonomous organizations also, but we also see kind of the corollary where Compound does have a governance structure where it's not a simple multi-sig, but when they were hacked, they weren't able to, recover or fix the contracts quickly because the governance system in place required a proposal to be passed and a 7-day voting period, right? So we're seeing that right now, as things are, there is a trade-off between how quickly you want to act as a DAO and how secure you can make it. And I think ultimately we as a community want to make our systems better by finding that optimal trade-off of being able to operate quickly but effectively. And we see that even though DAOs are messy, they're real, and I would say they're going to be meaningful for some time to come. Numbers for DAO involvement and engagement continue to rise. We have more funds being held as DAOs. And there's different types of DAOs that are coming out as well. There's NFT DAOs, there's investment DAOs, there's DAOs for practically anything, where people are figuring out, okay, how do we take this new paradigm of trustless organization and create different organizations out of that. And there are a lot of challenges. Can I move this so I can? I feel like I'm leaning and I look like an idiot. Okay. So there's various challenges. There's coordination challenges where people are like, okay, well, I'm part of this DAO. What do I use? A lot of people use Discord. There's some other really cool tools out there like Commonwealth that want to be kind of the home for all of these DAOs. But still, there presents kind of a coordination challenge of where do you communicate, where do you have all of the members congregate, right? There's participation challenges. People are getting really tired of participating in DAOs. Some people are in like 10 DAOs, and they're like, all right, I can't do my job because I'm in Discord all the time. There's also the challenge of like determining what proper governance mechanism to have as overall. So right now, a lot of DAOs have basically voting done off-chain on Snapshot, but then the execution of what the people have proposed gets done through by a small multisig of actual leaders of a protocol. But I think there's perhaps room for improvement there, where maybe a true DAO is where a member can have a proposal where it gets executed on chain once it's voted on. But there's, I think, going back to kind of the topic of DAO and decentralized governance being a problem of like political philosophy as a whole, is kind of the, like when we're determining as a society or as a community on what a proper governance mechanism is, it kind of begs questions of like even, okay, like this gentleman over here, DAOs can have spectrums of decentralization and trustlessness. So isn't it okay to give some people power and delegate authority for them to be able to act with authority so that actions get executed faster? I think that's quite reasonable, and it's a job for us to determine, or maybe for DAOs to determine what governance models that they believe make sense for their own communities. And then finally, decentralization challenges. I think though, like even if we agree that some DAOs can operate in a trust-based manner, the whole, I would say, reason why we have Web3 or crypto is that we do have now the ability to create trustless systems, and people can work together without trusting a particular intermediary. And with consensus, they define what rules to participate in. So I'm going to focus on the fourth one. I have 10 minutes left, okay. So how do we increase decentralization? First, we want to lean toward trustless systems, and then reduce what we believe is reducing technical overhead will be helpful for other people. And I'll explain, and with very little shilling. So what we do as Seasons is we allow people to create what we call albums, which are baskets of NFTs that are fractionalized or collectively governed through ERC20 tokens. And I'm sure you guys have heard like, you know, fractional, uniquely. Those are other fractionalization platforms out there in the market. The way that we differentiate is we have a governance mechanism built in where the ERC20 token holders of these albums are able to have proposals crafted that are voted on Snapshot, but it actually, if you craft a transaction for that proposal, it can get executed on chain through the reality.eth module, where people vote off-chain on Snapshot. It gets the contents of that transaction get sent off to the reality.eth module. It gets arbitrated, and then it will get executed on chain. We think it is one governance mechanism that might prove useful to other NFT DAOs, and we're keen on exploring kind of the further adoption of that. Okay, so we mentioned how do you increase decentralization? One is leaning toward trustless systems. So it's kind of tying back to what we have, I guess, built in terms of the off-chain voting and on-chain execution. So we built a single flow for kind of how these token holders of an album can participate and actually have meaningful participation. A lot of NFT DAOs today actually tie back to the screenshot that Ross shared where it's just multi-sigs. There's actually Gen Z people who, like, no offense to Gen Zs, but you know, they're like collecting NFTs together and they share private keys. Like, whoa, that's no good, you know? So I think hopefully, like what we are able to create is a platform where people don't, even if they're friends, don't have to trust each other and can use our platform by verifying the contracts and knowing that it does what it's supposed to do and be able to manage these NFTs collectively together. And then reducing technical overhead. So one aspect of what I mentioned was executing that transaction on chain. It does create a barrier of entry where not everyone knows how to craft an Ethereum transaction. So let's say you, to give an example, let's say you as an album participant want to buy a NFT off of OpenSea. And if you want to do that in a decentralized way and it's a proposal, it would be, at least in Seasons, what we're going to support is the ability for somebody to make a proposal, and in that proposal is a series of contract calls and API calls to OpenSea, where you can say, I would like to buy this piece for 5 ETH using the album treasury. And once that's executed, the album is able to buy the NFT collectively. But the part of the technical overhead is that not everyone is able to craft those transactions. And what we're doing is we have this concept of a standardized proposal where we want to package contract calls or transactions that are most popular of NFT DAOs and package it into kind of like a user-friendly manner. So when you, as a album token holder or a regular user, have an idea or proposal that you think the album should partake in, you're able to use these standard proposals, that gets voted on, and it gets executed. Again, I think there's actually a lot of room for improvement here, but the idea is that we are trying to lower the barrier of entry and participation of DAOs. Okay, so finally, trash. You guys are like, what, WTF? Okay, so we're launching hopefully what's an interesting initiative called the Trash DAO, where people, we're going to create what's called a trash album on Seasons, and you can deposit your shitty NFTs, and you get 69 trash tokens. And what I think is very interesting about this is that unlike any crypto projects, like this is going to be a true experiment in collective governance, where there's no team allocation. We don't get any trash tokens predefined by being contributors. It's actually what we'd like to see is random people depositing NFTs, getting trash tokens, and saying, actually, can we think about maybe setting up a fund or allocation for contributors who are going to be, I guess, helpful to this project, and making that, I guess, form completely organically. And I don't want the Seasons team to be part of that. Actually, I would say the only means by which we participate should be just making sure that our governance mechanism is something that fulfills the needs of Trash DAO. And if it doesn't, it's kind of an experiment for us as well to improve our platform, because we are taking a very opinionated approach on governance, and we recognize that it might not be ideal in certain cases, or maybe even most cases, and we'll fix if so. We have a pretty good team, much better than me. They're back there. Say hi. Okay, so takeaways. Governance is messy and technically challenging. There's a lot of ways to achieve governance and how to run a DAO. And the way that we are approaching it at Seasons is trying to give meaningful decision-making power to anybody. And that could be, for better or worse. Because I'm not sure if you saw the FTX commercial for the Super Bowl. One part of it was I made this is the declaration of our constitution or whatever, and then he's like, everyone can vote, and then the guy's like, even the stupid ones, and he tries to rip off the constitution, right? But I mean, and I think those considerations are legitimate, but I think what we have the opportunity, I guess, for the builders here is creating a system that we believe is more fair. And at least what we're trying to do at Seasons is broaden that participation by everyone. Thank you, and I'll take questions for here. Yeah.